Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited to be here. For those of you that have been celebrating and, more importantly, spreading the good word about the contributions and the importance of the Latino community within the Hispanic month, I'm sure you're all happy that the rhythm has slowed down a little bit. So we're definitely excited to continue with our series. As you remember, the last webinar we had was directly from Latitude. That was very exciting. The report was launched in the session, the Latinos in Tech report, specialized and focused on AI. We've been promoting it. It has amazing reception. It has really had, you can tell Latinos are, and everybody actually is looking for information. These webinars have had a purpose, and one of them has been to demystify what AI is and how important it is that we all get into it, and not only as users, but as creators, as part of the process at all stages, etc. So very, very excited that you guys are here. We have a huge crowd today. It's growing every webinar, which really tells us that we're in the right track, and more importantly, that there's a need, and that we're extremely happy to satisfy that need. So, for all the attendees, thanks for registering and for being here. As I said, this is a an initiative that we started about 2 years ago, when AI was just a huge rumor, right? We called them riding the AI wave because it was growing so fast that we just wanted to be part of it. We didn't want to be lagging behind. We wanted to be part of it. And thanks to our partnership with Conectado, with our wonderful board member, LDC board member, Guillermo Diaz, and of course, our sponsors at Capital One, who have been with us from the very beginning. This is the November seminar of a series of monthly gatherings just to talk about all the different subjects. And again, the goal is that, this initiative equips you with invaluable knowledge and skills to seize the opportunities of this big wave, right? Within this booming industry that is projected to be worth billions, I'm sorry. We want Latinos to be present, not only because we want to, but because we need to, and because the country needs us to be part of it. So, on our most recent event, as I said, directly from Latitude, we talked about the report, the fourth edition of this Latinos in Tech report. Again, with this partnership with Conectado, we've been able to talk to many, many, many different experts, and then pour everything into these reports, right? The difference between the first report and in 2021 and this report is incredible, and it shows the evolution of the industry. I want to tell you a few logistic messages. First of all, we're recording this LinkedIn session. So the good news is it'll be available for you to come back to it, for you to recommend to other people. It'll be available on our website, on our page, a Latino Donor Collaborative page, and the same as all of them. Every one of them that we've done is there. Well, today we will focus on a hands-on insight into ChatGPT's real-world application, and we have an incredible speaker for it. I was commenting in the back room before we started the seminar that it is so exciting. I think we all use ChatGPT, but we all want to use it more and more and more, right? And so we have an incredible guest that Guillermo Diaz, our board member and founder and CEO of Conectado, will introduce, a person that I so look forward will provide us with a lot of different secrets and a lot of different ways on maximize that. And please help me welcome Guillermo Diaz, who will introduce this great guest.
Hi, Anna. You're right. So just real quick before you jump off, I think we had I still remember thinking of even the report and these webinars and the education that we're trying to bring around AI, because I think we're all learning, right? We're all students of it. We're going to get a really good insight into one of the tools and platforms that we all use probably I use it every day. Um,
Same.
but even back then, remember in 2001, we didn't hear about ChatGPT when we started the reports. But we knew something was coming. We knew that technology was going to be a key factor in every aspect of how we work, how we live, how we play, how we learn every day. And
Yeah,
so that's kind of why we're here, right? And and so I think your leadership here, in helping us connect with the community and us together, really pushing this out. In our last webinar, it was actually a live, kind of hybrid in September at Latitude, where we really showed and displayed the power of how our community is coming together around leveraging these kinds of technologies, right?
absolutely. And all of them are live, G, but this one was, in the middle of a 10,000 people conference, right?
That's right.
Releasing the report with all the excitement of this incredible masses of smart, executives from all over the country. So that part was so exciting. And right now we also have a great virtual, audience, not 10,000, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
And so it's exciting. And I'm going to leave you with that so that
Okay.
but before that, I want to thank you because you said that I'm happy and I love connecting, right? But you are the source of the knowledge. You come from decades of expertise in Silicon Valley, and you really have enabled the LDC to do this event. So thank you, G. And with that, I am leaving so that you can introduce our
All
guests.
right. Well, I'm really excited today, to bring on a leader that, I've really kind of watched and kind of known him for a little while here through the high tech channels, through growing and together in technology and the being one of the first. And Felipe Millon he is that guy. He is a leader in the federal and sales go-to-market at OpenAI. And so OpenAI, if you don't know, that's where ChatGPT comes from. And so being there right at the beginning or early stages of what's going on in the world, he's got his hands in a lot of things here. So it's going to be a really good session today. Um, he leads not just the go to market, but in a space that is really hard to get into. I know this because, I've worked in my career in enterprise and in government. And the federal space is you have to have, everything in order. You have to have, you have to deal with regulatory, you have to deal with security, a lot of different things. And this is what Felipe has got his hands into in the government and the federal space. Before he was at OpenAI, he was at Amazon Web Services, where he grew a lot of his career and led cloud transformation projects, government sponsored enterprises, U.S. government housing agencies. I mean, just so many things and many years of experience in cloud computing, venture capital innovation. Um, His, impact here in the public sector growth is immense. And he has a great education background too, from a school that's near and dear to my heart, because at Cisco, I was the exec sponsor of Duke University. So he has his MBA from Duke, an MS in systems engineering from the University of Florida, and industrial engineering from Florida State University. So he kind of crosses boundaries. So I wonder who he roots for in the football games. But um, but he's committed to leveraging technologies and addressing these complex challenges that we're all facing. And he's also very passionate about bringing up, pushing up, pulling up the Latino community. So without further delay, I want to introduce Felipe to the stage. Felipe, take it over, and then I'll be back when you're kind of done with your conversation.
Awesome. Uh, Thank you so much, Guillermo, for that phenomenal introduction. Obviously, thank you, Anna, and all of the Latino Donor Collaborative for having me here. It's really a pleasure to be here. As Guillermo mentioned, I have the pleasure of leading our government go-to-market business here at OpenAI. And so what I do is share a lot of live demos and really show our product off, especially in the public sector. So what I'm hoping to do today, I have a couple slides to just kind of quickly set the stage, but very quickly want to drop those and actually jump into ChatGPT today. My goal is that you all leave with some additional knowledge or tips or something else you can do that you realize, like, I didn't realize ChatGPT could do this, or a new kind of framework or mental model on how to approach it. I am a proud Latino myself, was born in Colombia, married to a Brazilian wife, grew up in Miami, Florida. So again, love giving back to the community. So with that, I'm going to start sharing before we jump into the slides, I'm going to do a quick just live demo with my friend ChatGPT to just talk about, how AI could be used. So what I'm going to be using today, or what you're going to see me use, this is a ChatGPT. Specifically, this is an enterprise account. It's very, very similar on the kind of user interface to a Plus account. If you pay the $20 a month to OpenAI for the Plus version, or a team plan, that's our self-service version as well. So this is very similar. This happens to be my demo environment, which is an enterprise account. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and use our voice mode here and just chat with ChatGPT. Hey, Chat, you there?
I'm here. What's up?
Hey, I'm doing a live demo right now about AI, specifically to a Latino community.
That sounds exciting. How can I help?
Hey, you're actually part of the live demo right now. Can you say hi to the audience and introduce yourself?
Hola a todos. Soy ChatGPT, un modelo de lenguaje de inteligencia artificial, y estoy aquí para ayudar con cualquier cosa que necesiten. Me encanta formar parte de esta demostración.
Thanks, Chat. I love that you jumped immediately to Spanish there. Well, let's, one of the things we're going to touch on a little bit is how you can use AI yourself for productivity. So can you tell the audience a little bit about how to use AI for productivity? But I also have a twist for you. I want you to talk in Gen Z slang. And I really, really want you to really crank up the slang, like be pretty obnoxious with the slang.
A full fam. So, like, AI is totes lit for productivity. No cap. Imagine having a personal assistant that's always got your back, helping you stay on fleek with your schedule, your homework, or like whatever you got to do. You can ask AI to give you the 411 on any topic, help you write essays that slap, or even organize your day so you're not totally sus with deadlines. Using AI is like big brain energy, for real.
I appreciate that, Chat. I could feel my son cringing from across the room right now.
Glad I could bring the cringe. If it works and helps get the point across, it's worth it.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Chat. I may come back to you a little bit later. So what I just did there was, again, just played around a little bit with our voice chat. It's one of my favorite features of ChatGPT. This is our new advanced mode, was launched about 2 months ago. Highly, highly recommend playing with it. Some personal things I use it for. So I mentioned my son. I have a 9 and 7-year-old. I do choose your own adventure bedtime stories with them, where we just have ChatGPT choose a bedtime story. I'm going to customer sites a lot in the DC area. So I live here in the DC, in Northern Virginia area. Head to customer sites, a lot of times meeting with different agencies. And I might not know all the details of different agencies I'm traveling there. So I'll put on ChatGPT voice mode in my car over the Bluetooth, and I use it to research an agency. Hey, I'm going to go meet with, this specific Bureau of Commerce within the Department of Commerce. Tell me about what they do. Tell me about what their background is. Tell me about what their AI strategies have been, et cetera. And I use it to kind of just do research and background. So phenomenal there. And the last quick voice tip I'll give you is sometimes I take my dog for a walk, like usually once a week, around the block, and I'll throw in my earpod with ChatGPT, and I'll prompt the model to say, hey, Chat, I'm going to go take my dog for a walk. I'm just going to unload all the mental thoughts I have. Whenever there's a break, just say, don't interrupt me. And I'm just going to talk about my day, all the things going on. And so I just walk and I just talk. Hey, I have a meeting with this customer tomorrow. I have to do this. I have to do this. On a personal level, I got to remember to, pick up dry cleaning, whatever it might be, and kind of go through my task list and things I need to do. And I just spend a 15, 20-minute walk just rambling And ChatGPT every once in a while just chiming with an and then at the end of it, I said, get back to my desk and I was like, all right, what do I got to go do? What are my top 10 things that are most important? And it helps me like rank order and sort, etc. And I'll say, hey, I have to write this email to my boss. Let's go ahead and do the first draft. I think here's roughly what I wanted to say. Go ahead and draft it. It'll start a draft, and then I can go pull it up on my computer and continue work from there. So again, one of the other ways they use the voice mode. So with that, I'm going to switch to a couple of just very, very quick slides. I'll breeze through these so we can jump through fairly quickly. So the first one is just a little bit about who we are at OpenAI. So again, this is just a slide of the organization. So OpenAI really started as a research organization building these large language models. So OpenAI was one of the first companies to really pioneer the idea of scale in large language models. So for those of you who may be deeper in the industry, a lot of this is based and supported by certain developments, things like the transformer architecture, deep learning, and neural nets. Not all of that, none of that was actually created at OpenAI. But what OpenAI did was we pioneered the idea of the scaling laws. Really, the idea that we can scale these large language models larger and larger and larger and get phenomenal results. And so that's really what we've done at OpenAI. And then that led us to become not only a research company, but then a product company through ChatGPT, and then our API product for more developers. On the right, you see a bunch of the logos that we have. I actually just got the new iPhone and have the developer mode enabled. So I actually have access to ChatGPT embedded into my iPhone, which is pretty amazing. I just got that yesterday. So you can see the Apple logo on the screen here. You see other large organizations like PwC, who is rolling out ChatGPT Enterprise to at least hundreds of thousands of consultants already. I think they're up to 120,000 consultants, if I'm about right. Organizations like Spotify doing real-time translation using our API. So if you watch, for example, the Lex Friedman podcast, and all of a sudden you want to hear Lex Friedman speak in Spanish, you can do that. And that's using our APIs on the back end to actually do that real-time translation. So a couple of just where we think we're at is, first of all, we're at the stage in this AI journey where employees are really are expecting AI to be available for them. So again, as kind of Guillermo alluded to front, like a lot of us are users of tools like ChatGPT or others in our personal capacities. We've used them, we've seen the value of it. And then now when we bring our work selves, we're trying to say, well, how do I bring ChatGPT to that in a right, responsible way? So that expectation from employees. The second piece is we're at a place where we think every organization will be AI native by default. And I equate this back actually to the mobile revolution of the 2007, 2008 timeframe, where every company being formed out in Silicon Valley was, we are a mobile company, we're mobile this, we're mobile that. However, today, you don't really see that. You don't see an organization like Uber saying, I'm a mobile transportation company, or Airbnb saying, I'm a mobile property rental place. These organizations are, it's just a transportation company, but of course it has a mobile app. Of course, it's expected that that's part of your organization. We think the same thing is going to happen in the AI world. So today, if you go to the Valley, look at who's raising money today, it's everybody ending in a .ai company. It's all these organizations who are, I'm an AI blank, I'm an AI blank. And in the end, we think that every organization is going to be AI by default. And then finally is this idea of model intelligence is going to change everything. So Sam Altman, our CEO, has famously said, GPT-4o, our current flagship model, is the dumbest model we will ever have to use again. So these models are just going to get better and better and better. And again, that's through kind of this idea of these scaling laws. And so that's where we're at, that this model intelligence is going to continue to change what's available. I'll skip this for a sec. So just very quickly, as you think about how to implement AI, or maybe a rough standpoint of kind of what AI looks for, there's really kind of these three areas we like to think about how to bring AI into your organization. The first is creating an AI-enabled workforce. So how do we give a tool like ChatGPT to the workforce so that they can continue to improve their productivity, so they can figure out and discover of what kind of things we're going to use AI for? The second is, how do we optimize our operations using AI? And then third is, how do we build AI-infused products that we can bring to market for our organization? And then this is how OpenAI's products fit across. We have, again, as I mentioned before, a ChatGPT product, which is an end user application. And so again, that we have like for individual consumers, and then we have team and enterprise products for organizations. And then we also have our API, which is for developers to build on top of. I'll skip some of these and then I'll jump into it. One last quick thing that I always mention, just because there's a lot of FUD out there in the market about I can't use AI because as soon as I put in a prompt to OpenAI, you guys steal my data and then you have it forever. That is absolutely not how these things work. First of all, for our team, enterprise, or API products, this is all accurate by default. So by default, we do not train. You own and control all of your data. We do not train on any business data, on any business outputs. You own it all. You decide how long it's retained, etc. On the consumer side, if you're using a personal subscription to ChatGPT and improving the model is something that worries you, it is a one-click opt-out button to go into the settings, data, I think it's called data privacy, and then you can just, there's a button that says improve the model for everyone, you uncheck it, and then you are removed from the training data pipeline. So again, as simple as that. So that's not a fear that you should be worried about. If you are worried, feel free to just kind of opt out or use a business product. So with that, let's go ahead and do some demos, the fun part. All right. So again, once again, I am just here in regular ChatGPT using the web browser. And what I'm going to start off by is showing a little bit about what ChatGPT can do. In addition to just being a model, what we've done is given the ability to use tools. And so specifically, one of the ones I'm going to use in this prompt is web browsing. So you can see I've added a prompt saying, search the web for the Latino Donor Collaborative, and then write a haiku about the organization. So with that prompt, you see what ChatGPT is going to do is go ahead and search the web. And so you can see, first of all, before I read the prompt here, search for websites. So I can go and actually see which websites it went to. So you can see it actually went to the homepage of Latino Donor Collaborative, about us, and then actually looked up one of the US Latino GDP reports. And with that, I was able to give us a short description. So I was able to read those websites. Based on that, give me this information on who the Latino Donor Collaborative is, founded in 2010, et cetera. You can see organization produces extensive reports on the Latino GDP, et cetera. And based on that, here's our Latino haiku. Latino voices, numbers shape the nation's growth, strength beyond the charts. So not a bad haiku there. So one of the things I wanted to point out again is that this is a method of sometimes what you'll hear referred to as retrieval augmented generation. And what I mean by that is I could have asked ChatGPT, a question about the Latino Donor Collaborative without browsing the web. And at which point the model would have known something potentially about Latino Donor Collaborative, probably did, just because of its, what data it was trained with and what's available on the web. But instead, by searching, what we've done is actually pulled in this data from the web and then pulled that into the prompt window. In the background, what we do with the application is we bring in that context, that additional data about those web pages, what information is there. So again, we use traditional search. So you use the Bing API to use search to go look at the websites. You can see again, the 4 websites to look at, pull that information to the prompt along with this, and then be able to have an answer related to that. And what's amazing by that is when we ask now, where did this data come from? I can go back to my source and I can see it came from these sources. This is where it came from. So jumping through, I wanted to show another capability of ChatGPT, which is its translation capability and its multilingual ability. So we saw that a little bit in the voice demo where it started speaking Spanish with me right off the bat. But here I'm going to ask the model simply to translate the first line of the haiku into Japanese, the second into Greek, and the third into Spanish. And so you see, just with that natural language prompt, ChatGPT was able to go ahead and translate the lines of that haiku into Japanese, Greek, and Spanish. Fuerza más. We can even do a non-spoken languages. So actually come back and say, translate the first line of that original haiku into Braille, the second into Morse code, and the third into binary. And so you can see just with that, we've seen the model output binary, Braille, Morse code, and binary right there. So what we've seen so far is just, again, this is the GPT-4o model. The other tool that we have available for ChatGPT is access to what we call our DALL-E model. DALL-E is our text-to-image model. And so when the same interface is ChatGPT, I'm going to ask it a prompt to create an impressionist painting that highlights the important work that organization does. And so again, using this natural language prompt, what we're doing is we're creating a prompt about how to create this image. So actually look at this image here. So again, we have some of the things related to the numbers, etc. You can argue whether this is very Latino or not, possibly not. We can find the ways to make it better. We can say it, make it more representative of the Latino community. So again, just by continuing to ask it, it's going to go ahead and rerun the model in the background. And just doing that, natural language is going to be able to create a new text-to-image model. So again, now here we have a little bit more with some, more Latin American style clothing and other aspects of it here. You can see kind of Latino. One of the things I'll point out, our models are not great at writing text. So many times the text will actually be misspelled. That's just a limitation of the models today. Something that we're continuing to work on. If you're ever curious, you can actually click here on this prompt when you open it, and this will actually show you the full prompt that was sent to the DALL-E model. And so the reason I want to show this is sometimes when we give the model like, hey, draw an image of a cat, we actually don't give it enough information. And so the model we actually do in the background is we rewrite that prompt into something that is more effective for a DALL-E image creation. So again, this is where you can actually see some of the details here. So what we've seen here, again, is just a little bit of more of kind of just a fun way to use ChatGPT. Again, I highly recommend playing with DALL-E and the image. One of my best demos that I did recently is I did a STEM night at my son's elementary school. And effectively all I did was have kids come up to me, ask me what their favorite animal was, what's something they like to do. So it was like, oh, I like dogs and I like playing hockey. And I was like, all right, let's draw an image of a dog playing hockey, right? So I would just say, draw an image of a dog playing hockey. And just with that is a fun little way to entertain, a lot of, especially on the elementary side of kids, is again, it's what I did for a couple hours during the STEM night. While this loads, I'll go ahead. Oh, here we go. So here's our dog playing hockey here. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump to actually maybe a more kind of work-wise demo. So another thing I wanted to show is a new feature we launched a couple weeks ago called Canvas. So this is a new feature. It's still in preview or in a beta, and that's why I'm going to actually have to change the model. Normally, you probably won't have to do this in the future, but for now, we do. So where I click here, GPT-4o, this is the underlying model that powers what I'm using right now. So instead of GPT-4o, I'm going to click this. I'm going to go to GPT-4o with Canvas here. And now I'm going to ask it something different. I'm going to say, I work at this organization. Draft me 3 notes convincing the leaders of the organization on the importance and benefits of building an AI literate workforce. Make the first note an email, a second a press release, and the third one an emoji post with emojis, or Instagram post with emojis. And so because I went to Canvas, you're going to see my screen do something different here. So it goes ahead and starts writing, but you see it created this little box here. And now it just moved it and popped it to the side. So what we have done with ChatGPT is created a canvas. So if you were trying to write emails or draft or have it draft documents for you, it used to be a little bit painful with ChatGPT because you'd have to go back and you weren't able to edit it. So now we've changed that by saying, by creating this canvas feature. So I'll come back to Canvas in a sec, but I wanted to show you first these 3 different, very, very different writing styles just on the way I prompted it. So again, I asked for an email about, investing in AI literacy. So you can see, dear leaders, hope this message finds you well. Here's why AI literate employees can help us leverage data effectively, automate routine process, cutting edge insights, etc. So this is one piece. You can see here's now a press release. So the team of Donor Collaborative proud to announce our initiative focused on cultivating an AI literate workforce, investing in AI. So again, now very much looks like, for immediate release, city, date, etc. And then finally, even an Instagram post, right? AI is here, time for our community to shine. At LDC, building AI literate workforce, the team forefront invitation, etc. You can see the hashtags, the emojis, etc. I'm going to go ahead and delete some of these so I can just play around. Let's go ahead and just do on the email. So the first thing you're seeing is I'm actually interacting with this content, right? So I took this piece on the side here, and I'm go ahead and I'm able to just delete sections, move things around, and add. So for example, best regards, my name. I'll change that to Felipe. And you can see I can go ahead and just I can edit this directly in here. What I can also do is ask comments to specific sections. So for example, I want to highlight the importance, like here's a list of things. So I can highlight this section and say, make this into a bullet list. And so just that, it's going to go ahead and rewrite that section on adding the bullet list, a bulleted list here. So AI literate workforce. So again, one of the other things so I can edit this live directly. I can take specific sections or sentences and ask it to rewrite. I can live edit it, bold italics, anything you might want to do. And on the bottom, I can also ask ChatGPT to rewrite the full thing, just kind of go would regular with ChatGPT, just by messaging here in the corner. On this bottom right, I also wanted to show our little edit bar here where I can do all sorts of different things. So for example, I can adjust the length. So right now, this is a current length. I can make it shorter, longer. So let's go ahead and make it a little bit shorter. And just by doing that, clicking that button, you see it'll rewrite this email, make it a little bit shorter. I can then also adjust the reading level, for example. So I can make it, high school, college, graduate, or down to kindergarten, middle school. So let's go to the kindergarten reading level. And so again, you can see here, it's AI is changing many jobs, learning AI will help us. So much simpler language here. And again, let's say, for example, let's go to Ask ChatGPT and say, add more information upfront. So I can ask something here, like very simply, like let's add more information upfront. And it added a little bit more. And I can actually come up here and click this little show changes, and it'll actually show me exactly what the model just changed and kind of the writing as I go back and iterate with the canvas here. So again, for anyone who's doing writing, whether it be emails, press releases, blog posts, etc., highly encourage you to play around with our Canvas feature. Just a phenomenal experience to kind of be able to write and edit and share with AI. So with that, I'm going to pivot to a different type of demo, which is around our data analysis. So obviously, data is something that we all use day in and day out, and ChatGPT is actually incredible at being a partner for analyzing data. So in this case, what you see is I just uploaded a CSV. So some folks aren't aware, but you can just upload a CSV file or Excel file. So I just uploaded a CSV file, and I'm going to simply ask it, describe what's in this data. So again, natural language prompt here. And you're going to see the model, once again, is going to kick off something else, so another tool use. In this specific case, what the model is doing in the background, and then I'll explain a little bit about the data set, is ChatGPT, we actually enable to have an IDE, or an independent development environment. So a workspace where you can actually execute code. So ChatGPT is phenomenal at writing code, but it can also execute code specifically in this Python environment. And so I'll come back to this in a sec, but I can actually show this analysis, and I can see the code that ChatGPT wrote and executed. So for any of you that work in data science, you may be familiar with pandas. It's a very popular data science library. So it's importing the pandas library and then starting to run a couple commands to read the CSV file, and then to do this data.head command, which really pulls in the first few rows. And so it pulls in the first couple rows of data into the model, and then reads that data and is able to now give me a natural language understanding of what is in this data set. So again, you can see here, so this is accurate. This data set is flight data for New York City in January 2013. It contains 27,000 records with 29 columns, providing information on flights, specific date around date and time information, flight identifiers, airport locations, airline information, and flight metrics. So for example, I can say, there's actually prompt questions here. So can you summarize the average delay per airline? And so once again, what ChatGPT is going to do is analyze. I can actually open it here and see the code that ChatGPT is writing live. So again, it's trying to calculate the average departure and arrival delay, to renaming columns for clarity, displaying the summarized data to the user. And so again, so here now you can see, now here's the average delay per airline. I'll put it here, and I can expand this all, and I can see kind of all of the different airlines here. So this is interesting. I can definitely ask it to do, show me information of flights. I can ask it very simply to create bar charts and things like that, but I'm going to make it even trickier for this one. So I'm actually going to go ahead and upload another file here, which is a dashboard. And I'm using the word dashboard very, very loosely, as I will show in a second. What I have uploaded to ChatGPT is a picture of a whiteboard. So this is a picture we drew on a whiteboard, very simply, number of flights total, number of flights by origin with a very poor looking pie chart here, number of flights by route for the top 10. And then what we asked ChatGPT was, describe this image and then generate a dashboard like it using the data provided. And so again, so first it does what I asked it to. It's describing that dashboard. So it's the total number of flights, the flights by origin, flights by top 10, and then it's going ahead and creating that exact dashboard using the flights data set. So again, you can see here that 27,000 flights. Here's the flights by origin. And then you can see even this bar chart here, the top 10 routes by frequency. So again, just using natural language, just using image recognition, it was able to actually read that image and pull that through. So again, this is one way to use ChatGPT. I highly recommend, especially in business context, is for data analysis. Every time you have a CSV or some sort of data spreadsheet, drop it into ChatGPT, and I think you'll be amazed at how it could actually use that to go ahead and create, really help you with data analysis. If you don't even know, one of the things you can ask is say, what other types of questions could I answer with this data set? Go ahead and answer 3 of them with visuals. So you can add one again, pro tip for ChatGPT is ask ChatGPT many times what it can do. And you'll be actually surprised at how good that is. So in this case, so like, here's this data set. What other questions can I ask? Go ahead and answer 3 of them with visuals. So again, here's a bunch of questions I could answer, prompting me on airlines have the most flights, average delays. And so it's going to go ahead and answer which airlines had the most flights in January 2013, what's the average delays by airport, and what day of time has most flights departing. So you can see here, now here is our 3 visuals here. And interestingly enough, it mimicked what we did before and put them all together in one. So you can see here the number of flights per airline, the average delay by airport, scheduled. If you wanted these to be separate, you could, again, just ask natural language, like make these visuals separate. And so again, using natural language, you can iterate and go back and forth with ChatGPT to help you kind of tweak and analyze what you're doing. The great thing about this, again, this advanced data analysis experience is that you can always go back and see exactly what ChatGPT did. You can go look at the exact code that it ran, and be able to, look at, for example, how it got to these specific code where you can see deltas, 3,600 flights, etc. So again, this is the data analysis experience. I wanted to next pivot to a new model that we have, which is our reasoning model. And I want to show this one off because I think it's actually one of the most important things that we've launched recently. And I'm super excited about the potential of this. So let me even take a step back first. So these large language models, when I ask it a question, tell me about the Latino community in the US. When I ask it a question, you see it immediately starts kind of outputting tokens, right? Or words. It immediately starts writing. It's going ahead and writing an answer. And this is great. And what we've taught is that when you're trying to predict the next word, there's actually a lot of information that you have to know, and these models have become more intelligent over time by doing this. However, there is limitations to this, immediate next word prediction. And so one of the things that folks have found over time is they can better prompt the model by asking it to do chain of thought reasoning. So that's when you ask the model to, before I answer, think step by step. And so this definitely works a lot better, like maybe less for a question like this, but more for like math problems or like problem solving is, hey, think step by step and give me your plan of action before you start, answering it. But it was still very much like you're asking someone to write an essay or solve a math problem without being able to use a backspace, without being able to correct itself. So one of the things we've created recently is this new model called O1, the O1 series of models. So we have O1 Preview and our O1 Mini model. And so these models really are allowing these models to do something different. And so I'm going to show it with a little puzzle as a first example. So I'm going to paste this prompt in here. And what this prompt is for any of you who've played the New York Times Connections game, this is an example of that from a few weeks back. So the New York Times Connection game is a puzzle where you get 16 words and you have to group them into 4 categories of 4. How do these 4 words relate to each other? So this is a game that historically large language models, so OpenAIs and others out there, have been very bad at, because we pick an answer and then they kind of get stuck and they can't go back, and then they hallucinate and make up the rest. You can try it for yourself. Most of the time, they do not work. Occasionally they'll kind of just guess it right, but about 80% of the time, we fail. Large language models fail at this type of problem. So when we do O1, we're going to do something a little bit different. So rather than spitting out an answer like it did last time, you see the model was doing something. It's initially said thinking, and now I'm seeing kind of examining potential categories. I am, grouping terms. The model is really thinking about its answer. I can actually expand this and see the chain of thought of the model. What is the model thinking about? And so in this case, it's grouping words together. It's identifying patterns. So it looks like some bread types right? Bagel, loaf, shank, slice. Some are golf miss hits. I'll tell you in this too, bread types is actually not one of the answers. It seems like it should be, but it's actually part of the trick in connections in this specific puzzle. So this is kind of a false positive. And the model eventually will go back and catch that. So it's looking at, okay, expanding potential categories, golf miss hits, approval terms, okay, other words, considering combination, piecing together words, readdressing groupings, examining connections, I'm thinking through options, facing a challenge. So, you know, fitting phrase, potato, support line, these don't fit quite wit. Clarifying words, mapping out association, mapping shoe parts, etc. So it's going through, and all of a sudden, it's grouping words. It's realizing. So again, it's actually thinking for a while about this one. It's coming back saying, okay, let me piece together. Let me see. There's 0 sports score events, connections, identifying patterns, and then finally it comes and it hits it like, okay, got it. Here are the 4 categories. So again, category 1 is approval. Category 2 is golf miss hits. 3 is ring-shaped items, so bagel, lifesaver, tire, and wreath. And then moving slowly or softly, low, sneak, lift, like these movement words. So this is actually the right way. So again, what this model has done is really think through very quickly, strongly before how it could actually, come up with an answer before responding. And so this is really important because, first of all, it allows us to, there's been a thought process that these models are all black boxes. You don't have any idea why the model predicted that answer or why it answered this question. And so we necessarily can't trust it. And so in this case, you can see the model actually thought for 76 seconds before responding, and we can read its chain of thought. I can understand how it got to its conclusion and why it did what it did. Another example I'll give you, and this is kind of a very silly one, but love this question, which is, and just again, one that if you think about almost as a human, how would you solve this question? So if I print all of Wikipedia on 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, how many shacks tall would it be? So how many Shaquille O'Neal's tall would it be? And so it's an interesting one because this is not a question that normally would ask. Someone's like, this is probably not in the training data set of these models. And so you have to think through, how would I measure that? And so in this case, you can see how the model thinks about it. So first of all, I got to stack Wikipedia pages. I got to convert text to pages. So print Wikipedia is estimated at about 5 million pages. Total text gigabytes. Think about the thickness, 30 Shaq's height. Print all the pages, and then I can actually go through and see how the model thinks through. Here's how many total pages. Here's the calculate the thickness of the paper, determine Shaq's height, and the model is going to come back and say 282 Shaq's tall. But again, the interesting thing about this is this ability for the model to think before response. And I really wanted to highlight this one to the audience because I think this is actually the future of a lot of where these models are going to continue to grow and develop, especially a lot of what folks at AI labs like OpenAI's and others, you're probably reading a lot about this, is that people are trying to think about agentic behavior and what agents. And what people mean by agents is things that can take action in the real world. So I can say, hey, go book my flight, go book my travel, go do a series of tasks, and I actually want you to go do it in the real world for me, or on the web, but I don't want to necessarily go to a chatbot, ask you to do this, you give me an answer, that I go back, we go turn by turn. I want you to be able to just kind of go do a bunch of things for me. And really, this ability to have these models that think and reason allow us to be able to do that in a much better way. So I think these reasoning models are actually hugely important for the continued development of AI as it progresses. So with that, I'm going to pause in a second here. And Guillermo, I think we have some time for Q&A. But I did want to maybe do one last comment, which is I get asked a lot in these sessions of how should I think about AI? What are the things that, how can I trust it? And so one just quick anecdote or advice is you have to take a risk-based approach, right? If I am a lawyer, or let's say I am even better not as a lawyer, but if I receive a contract to sign and it's maybe a multi-million-dollar contract, and I just throw it into ChatGPT and say like, hey, is there any problems with this contract? And it says no, I'm not going to blindly sign that contract. I might use that information to then help me take to my attorneys and say, hey, ChatGPT actually identified these problematic terms. Do you agree with that? Do you not? But I would still go to attorney for something like that. If I am working in my organization and someone says, hey, it's Hispanic Heritage Month and we want to translate our cafeteria menu from English into Spanish, I would feel perfectly happy throwing that into ChatGPT and taking the output exactly as is and just copy and pasting that in the menu. Because the risk of that being wrong, if I like mistranslate something, maybe it's funny, etc., but it's not that big of a deal versus signing a multi-million dollar contract. So you have to take a risk-based approach. And really the biggest thing is that you're a human in the loop still here. And so being a user of the tool. I said that was the last one, but actually maybe one last point, Guillermo, before opening it back up to you in questions, is the one idea that we started this conversation with is the importance of being a user of AI. I am an extreme believer in obviously this technology. I voted with my feet, had a phenomenal career at Amazon, and was so enthralled with this technology, just became a powerful user and just kind of jumped right into it. I think the biggest thing that we need to do is just become a user of it. This thing sounds scary. AI sounds complicated. It's really not that hard to be a user. And especially in the world of AI, I love a quote, which is, unfortunately, we can't get fit by reading about working out. We have to go to the gym. And in the world of AI, going to the gym is using AI. So there's no substitute for being a user of AI, starting to push. A lot of times, again, being at OpenAI, I get asked, hey, could ChatGPT do this? Could ChatGPT do that? A lot of times what we say is, that's a very bad question to be asking me. Try it. Go put it into ChatGPT. The tool's available. It's there. Put it in, see if it works, see what comes back, and then let's talk about, hey, why did it have this weird answer? Why did it not work for this? So anyway, so my advice and hopefully my parting wisdom to all of you before getting the Q&A here is use the tools. Again, I'm very biased. I think ChatGPT is the best one out there. There are others, even if you want to go use Claude or Gemini, etc. But use something. These tools are here to stay. So with that, I'll pause and stop. Thanks for the time. Guillermo and Ana, back to you.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's spot on. And I always say change is going to happen by us, with us, or to us. And so, I think what you're getting at here is we have to be, I think it's not even a train. It's not the train is left. It's like the rocket ship has left, and we need to be on that rocket ship, right? And so no, this was really awesome. I think, the one thing that I think we're going to want to go on and right into the questions because there's a lot of questions, but before we do that, I always want to start with the why. What is your why? Why, like, where are you from? Like, looking at your background, because I think it's really important because we're learning the technology here, but also relating it back to our community, and why it's important to uplift, upskill, reskill the Latino community because it's the growing engine. But like for you, what is your why? What's your background?
Yeah. So, thanks for the question, Gabriel. I started in engineering and was in technology, but always in an interest in business. So I've always been at this intersection of technology and business. Found my way, ended up at Amazon and had a great career there. I was doing cloud computing. And so it was very close to technology adoption. A lot of the AI wave today is only powered, we can only do because of cloud computing and be able to build these masters computing scaled clusters. And so was working with in and around AI at Amazon. And when I saw ChatGPT come out in November of 2022, like probably many of you, it completely blew my mind. And I became obsessed. My wife will very much validate the fact that I became obsessed with learning this tech. How was it working? How was it that I could just put these little questions into this chatbot and it actually gave me real answers? And so I got obsessed with the original ChatGPT on GPT 3.5. And learning how it was working and just really reading every paper I could on archive and understanding the science behind it, taking a bunch of online classes. But then really realized the limitations of it and of these earlier models. It was hallucinating a ton, and hallucinating is a fancy word for saying it was making things up. And it wasn't really quoting things. And so I was like, oh, this is great, but it's got its limitations. And then the GPT-4 model came out and completely blew my mind again. And at that point in time, I made a decision like I'm going to change my career into this field because I'm passionate in where I think this is going. The more I read about it, the more I got excited. So a lot of times people read it and it's like, oh, there was actually not much depth to this and there's not that much here. The more I read, the more I got excited. The more I was like, oh my God, this is going to continue to grow. These models are actually going to get better and better. And even if the underlying models didn't get better, the products we can build with them are going to get better. And so there was just so much opportunity that my why was just really just this feeling of like awe and excitement around what this technology could do and what it could be done to solve, real problems. I'll share deeply personal story. My wife is going through some pretty difficult medical treatments right now, and ChatGPT has been absolutely incredible in taking very deep medical speak and help me research and understanding what it is. So we've uploaded documents and said, hey, help me translate this, like what this is mean. And she got her first back report and she's like, she's even telling me, I was like, oh my God, what does it say? And she's like, I don't understand this. And she's like, I already put it into ChatGPT. Here you go. And so, using ChatGPT to really help, like, hey, explain this to me. I'm not an expert in this field. Hey, what questions should we be asking the doctor? What should we do? So I think the potential of this technology to do things like that is absolutely incredible. Talking, language, for example, translation, especially the Latino community, being able to do live translations. Probably something that's very familiar to this audience. My father is a first generation immigrant as well. He came when he was much older and his English still, he always works on it. But he always would come to his kids and say, hey, I'm writing this. He works in airlines. And he's like, I'm writing this email to the FAA. Can you help, make sure it's correct and that my English is good? And so he'd always call me and mainly my brother and sister who are lawyers, and they'd always get fed up with it. And then about 6 months ago, I taught him to use ChatGPT, and I was like, hey, Dad, write it in Spanish, throw it into here you go. And we're getting less and less calls from my dad because he's actually realizing, like, hey, this is for him to translate this.
Absolutely.
That's funny. Yeah. So just real quick on your personal story, it's not even just the translation of language. It's like we don't, some of this translation is English. It's like we don't even. It's like, how do I decipher my medical, this thing that I'm going through, right? And so I think it's it's definitely impacting lives too. So it's great.
You know what, talking about personal stories, I mean,
Hmm.
I literally learn from my brother, right? My brother, it just, explores it and explores it and explores it, and then I know it. And of course, he uses it at work. He has a big a company, and so, just it becomes kind of a bonding thing. It's that kind of tool that is invading all of our lives that it's a subject within the family.
Hmm. Yeah. So there were some questions there that I think when you showed your first slide around the partners, one of the questions popped up around Copilot and the relationship with Microsoft and how that relates to what you're doing now, what you showed today, and maybe other companies, right? So it's just kind of started early with Microsoft.
Yeah, I mean, like many companies in tech, there's a lot of interesting dynamics and relationships. Microsoft is a phenomenal partner of OpenAI. They're one of the first big investors in OpenAI. So the OpenAI is a nonprofit with a for-profit subsidiary, and they're a very large investor in the for-profit subsidiary. They are also our infrastructure provider. So we run on Azure and do joint research together, and specifically on how do we create these enormous computing clusters and how do we train these models on them. So we work very, very closely with Microsoft, especially from a research perspective. However, just the way the market dynamics have worked out, OpenAI and Microsoft are competitors when it comes to product perspective. So although that we collaborate very closely on the research, then when it comes to the product that we're bringing to market, we do compete there. So Microsoft has a product called Azure OpenAI, which is basically OpenAI's models that they host and run and resell. And then they also have their Copilot. I think that was in one of the questions. Copilot is their deployment of, how do I build a product that leverages these models for an end user? And again, I think Microsoft has done some phenomenal work with their Copilot integration into the Office suite. So specifically, if you're a Teams user in your organization, my wife happens to be in an organization that uses Teams. I think the Team Copilot is phenomenal, getting live transcripts, being able to go ask questions of, or post-call transcripts and summaries and follow-ons, et cetera. I think they've done a great job there. And then they have other products. So I think it could be great from a Copilot suite. It is competitive with ChatGPT and specifically ChatGPT Enterprise. So organizations are usually evaluating ChatGPT Enterprise or Copilot. I am clearly very biased, and I think ChatGPT is a product. And for organizations that are using it, if you're using Copilot, I would just recommend to try ChatGPT as well. So I think my biggest thing as someone who works with getting organizations to adopt ChatGPT is, it's very easy for me because I think I have a much better product. So I say use them both, and you will see the difference yourself. I think just ChatGPT, just the closeness that we have to these models, I think just adds a lot of value in that we're the research organization building them. And so we're able to post-train our models to be slightly better. We're able to allow more tool use and more native integrations in that UI. And so I think we've built some pretty phenomenal products that, are continuing to get better and better.
Excellent.
Awesome.
So, I see some of the questions, and you have a lot of questions about safety, security. You also have questions about, how inclusive is it? And I don't know if Guillermo shared with you that, the way we started this reports was, we were looking for images within ChatGPT about Latinos, and they were horrendous. And this was 4 years ago. Things have changed. But so of course we got to the bottom of it, and of course people told us it's about who makes the algorithms, and it's about putting in new information. We at that point we assumed that information that was at Google was automatically translated to AI, and of course we found that it was not. And so it was about a lot of different advices that we got. Right now, after 4 years, Felipe, what do you recommend? We are a nonprofit think tank that is, pursuing a fact-based narrative of who Latinos are in the United States. What do you recommend for Latinos and non-Latinos in this group, to create a much more, fairly represented, fact-based imagery? And there's a person, Minu, who is asking something similar, right? What do we do to make that possible?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think representative is very important. So one of the first ones is provide feedback whenever you see some things that are incorrect. So some of this is like there's some things you can do as a community, as a nonprofit. There are things that it's on us, on the labs, on people building these models to ensure we get right. So one of the first things, whenever you see something that's wrong, like flag it for us and tell us and say, hey, look, be loud and vocal. Like, hey, look, I asked this prompt and this is what your model told me, and this is not a great answer. If you're using the consumer version, you can we have like a thumbs up, thumbs down. We very closely look at those. So thumbs down an image and tell me like why, like in the comments, say like, hey, this is actually not representative of XYZ population, etc. So I do think that that's one piece of it, is understanding kind of that piece of how to provide feedback. There is a question in there. One thing I always like to address is, whenever we're talking about AI adoption, there's the big focus on risk and safety, which I think is very important. But I do want to emphasize that I think one thing that I've seen happen a lot in the industry is folks use that as an excuse to kind of get paralyzed a little bit, because what we do is we think about, oh, you're going to use AI, but you have to use it risk-based. You have to use a safe AI and ethical AI, which kind of then implies, who's using AI unethically, who's using it like not safely. And so again, especially with a tool like ChatGPT, where it's a human in the loop, there are clearly ways that you can misuse AI tools, and usually those are going to be bad actors and folks that are intentionally trying to do it, regardless of like how much you tell them to be ethical. But so for all of us, I do think there is, we need to think about it responsibly, but that shouldn't stop us from using it and trying it and doing something. So that's the thing I would say, is like, we really need to be working on these tools and getting to the gym using AI, because we spend a lot of time talking about, and so especially as the Latino community, but also like as in the United States, and really I do think as this technology progresses, the White House last week released a U.S. national security memorandum on artificial intelligence for the national security industry. This technology is starting to become very much a national security. It's very already a geopolitical issue, and it's because of kind of what we think the power of where it's going. And Jake Sullivan, who's the national security advisor, gave a speech last week, and he said, like, look, the U.S. clearly has a lead on AI today, but we risk losing that lead, because even though we have the best team, by not putting that team on the field. And so this big thing is like, we need to be using this technology. So again, we need to think about rightly and safely. And again, that's where I mentioned the idea of like cafeteria menu versus, contract review. Like, use it safely, use it responsibly, but use it. Go start using it and take a risk-based approach on like what you're fully allowed to do and what you will just use to augment you and help you.
That's a really great advice, because we all need to use it and give it feedback, right? So we have the power of correcting in some ways. There's, again, because there's so much about security. I'm reading one. Is there a risk of information pour into ChatGPT being accessed by OpenAI or other ChatGPT users in any other way?
Yeah, Great question. I just a little bit upfront, but let me show one more quick thing, which is two things I wanted to show. So if you are using our business tools, we have an enterprise privacy page. So again, being very clear, I think there's a lot of FUD out there in the industry, especially a lot of other tech providers and others trying to say like, oh, you can't use OpenAI because you need a private model that we will sell you. And that's why they were trying to push a narrative of like OpenAI is unsafe. Again, very much not the case. So for any of our business products, enterprise, team, or API, you fully own and control your data. We do not train on any data from customers. So enterprise or API, again, and this is kind of trust and verify. We're doing a big enterprise deployment. We have teams can do a whole security review of the SaaS product. If you're using it for a consumer, I'm going to jump back to ChatGPT real quick, and I'm going to flip to my personal account for a sec so you can see this. So if I'm in my personal account now, I click on my, I just click my name. I'm going to go to my settings. And then here, there is a little section called data controls. You click on data controls, and you can see this little radio button, improve the model for everyone. So you can easily turn this on or off. If you turn it off, that is it. No data will ever be fed back into the training pipeline. And again, it also, the way the model works, it's also not like Guillermo asks a question about his company's strategy into ChatGPT, and then the next day his competitor is going to ask it, and we're like, oh, Guillermo asked this. Like, these models are trained in very, very large pre-training runs, like once a year, maybe. And so there's a lot of like technical reasons why like data leakage is really nowhere near as big as a problem as sometimes it seems to be in the tech community. Again, a lot of that is driven by an industry that wants to sow doubt in OpenAI's products because they're trying to catch up or sell something else.
Great answer.
Hey, yeah. And I know we're running close on time here, but it's such a great conversation. I want to maybe connect 2 points here. One is around just the impact on the energy and the footprint it takes to continue this. I mean, this curve is like an 89-degree curve of adoption, right? But it takes power, right? It takes energy. It's like what is OpenAI's sort of view on that? And then the second part really is back to education. How are you seeing educators like, in high schools and universities taking, I know we're working a lot with them, and about 80% of them are like, we need help. And then you have the other 20% that are like, there's no way they're cheating, and so it'd be interesting to get your perspective on the energy footprint and then kind of the education footprint.
Yeah, two extremely important topics. On the energy one, especially, is one my wife volunteers a lot with climate activism, and so it's something that's very dear in our household. We spend a lot of time thinking about. So there is no denying that these models use a lot of energy, and you're creating large computing clusters. Again, one thing is, still in the grand scheme of like total energy consumption, this is like very single digits, very small single digits. So in the grand scheme of human energy consumption, it's still important. It's vast and growing. It's something we need to think about, but it is sometimes like people think this is like 50-60% of all energy consumption is like single digit and like low, small single digit, but still that's a lot of energy. The other big thing is that our models, and most of these in the day, are running on the large hyperscalers. So Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, for the most part, are the ones training building these large superclusters. These cloud computing providers are all made climate pledges of one sort or another, and are either climate neutral today and buying carbon offsets, or they're even getting to carbon negative. In Azure's case, I think by 2040, they actually hope to get carbon negative. You've actually seen this work in AI spur a lot of interest in renewable power, and specifically nuclear energy is now making a comeback. So Microsoft recently restarted 3 Mile Island. Amazon signed the nuclear power deal. I think so did Google for these small modular nuclear reactors. And so folks are really starting to think about how do we create green energy around this. So the other big thing is that we believe strongly, especially with our model like O1, these reasoning models, that we can actually use AI itself to help accelerate our transition to cleaner types of energy. And so how could we use AI to do better on material science research so that material scientists are better to create more efficient solar panels, for example? And so we do think that, using AI itself to then address these needs is going to be important. So that's on the climate side. On the education side, I think education is one of the first places that's going to, it is one of the places that there's most immediate impact here. We're seeing definitely a range of results, exactly like you mentioned, Guillermo. On one extreme, we are working with, for example, Arizona State University. We launched a product earlier this summer called ChatGPT EDU. So we actually have an education product. So actually, Arizona State University CIO did a demo, did a discussion with us, and one of the things he talked about was this is actually an equity thing, because some students had access to the paid version of ChatGPT and some had free and some didn't access it at all. And all of a sudden it was different in terms of like what those students could do because they didn't have that assistant with them. And so what Arizona State said is we as the university are going to provide it to everybody. So now everybody has access to the same tool. And now we're going to reframe our instruction around it. And so in certain classes, we're going to push you to use it. And in some classes, we're telling you you're not allowed to use it. Another example, another one to talk about is out of Wharton. They have a phenomenal professor, Ethan Mullick. If you don't follow him on his socials, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., or X, he's a phenomenal person to follow. He just wrote a book called Co-Intelligence. He's a great thinker in the space, and he's a professor at Wharton. And what he talks about is he's actually changed his entire curriculum around AI. So he's like, I am assuming students are using AI. And so instead, we says like, I'm going to give you an assignment.
That's important because, like we're working a lot with these universities and they're like, we know they're cheating. It's like, yeah, but they're using it. So how are you going to become more literate so that you can, program around that? So you can, so I mean, that's such a great point.
Like Ethan, what he said, for example, is like what he does, he gives a take-home assignment, but what he does is say like, okay, now we're going to come back to class and I want you to see your prompts. I want to see how you prompted the model to get this output. And then what we're going to do is we're going to live review it by hand and critique them by hand in class. And so he's kind of flipping the script where we're going to do the live critique by hand in class. He's like, I still need you to know how to think critically and how to understand the topic. And so I want to see you do that in class live by hand, where I know you're not using a computer assistant to do this with you, but I'm expecting you to do it in there, and just making clear expectations of when you can use it, when you should be using it. And then just assuming that if you give someone a writing assignment, that they're going to use a tool like ChatGPT, like Claude, like something else to help provide kind of drafts and brainstorm. And so how do you kind of frame what's the appropriate use of that tool and just set that guardrail appropriately?
Wow. Oh my God, this is fascinating. I wish we had 3 hours or more. We have so much to learn. Thank you, G, for introducing the LDC and the audience to Felipe Millon. Felipe, thank you so much for being here. If that's okay with you, we'll ask you to come back because there were so many questions. There's so much interest, and this was really a treat. We're really honored, and thanks for everything that you're doing, by the way. It's good to know that we have amazing people from the community participating on the building of this. This is extremely important. That's one of the many reasons why we do this. So thank you so much. We have to close the session. For the audience, we're having the November webinar will be early during the month so that, we do it before Thanksgiving. So you'll be hearing more about the dates and the specifics about that one. And as you know, please follow us at the Latino Donor Collaborative. Go to our website, latinodonorcollaborative.org, to download all the reports, the information. And if you want to go back to what Felipe is teaching and just I'm going to do that, by the way, Felipe, just know, and just rehearse all these great tips. You can go to our page on LinkedIn and the session will be recorded there. So again, thank you. G, I don't know if you want to say some words, but
no, I just super proud of you, Felipe, just what you've done and what you represent for the community, and just keep shining because you are you. I hope everybody saw today how much of a star you are and not just in as a Latino, as a leader that is leading the way in such a transformational area of our lives.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all.
It breaks my heart that there's so many questions, but we'll have you back and you'll have to answer them all.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here, the audience always.
Thank you.